And why should you make parsnip wine, I hear you ask? The simple answer is it is one of the best country wines you will ever make. So let's dive into the recipe and make this warming parsnip wine. This wine is parsnip heavy. It has that intensity of parsnip. It screams out rootiness in your mouth. And who doesn't love a good burst of rootiness in their mouths? So what we need is about 2.5 kilograms of frost-bitten parsnips. If you have not had a frost yet, not to worry. You can slice and dice your parsnips ready and put them in the freezer overnight. That freezing action will have the same effect upon the flavour and the sugar release and the starchiness of the parsnips that make this wine heavenly, divine, delicious. Parsnips. So, with your 2.5 kilos of parsnips, chop them, chunk them, slice them, dice them. Does not matter too much to keep that uniformity. You will get wrist-ache after a while of chopping. And anyone knows having a wrist-ache is not ideal with your roots in your hand. With the delicious parsnips all chopped up into random sized chunks, we want to move on and place them into a large saucepan big enough to contain your 2.5 kilograms of parsnips and enough water to cover them. If you don't have a large stock pot, then try to use a couple of saucepans. What we want to do now is bring that up to the boil, then let it simmer away for about half an hour. Let the flavour emerge and seep into the juice from the parsnips. So put it on the stove, bring to a roaring boil, then let it simmer away ever so gently for about half an hour. And whilst our parsnips come to the boil and simmer, we want to prepare the rest of the ingredients that we need. So grab yourself your big 5-gallon fermentation bucket, which you've sterilised prior to starting your wine. Now this is going to be a strong, blow your head off type of wine. It's one of those classics that everyone knows. If you're a home brewer and you make parsnip wine, the alcohol content is sky high, far higher than you'll generally buy on the shelves in the shop. 18 touching 20%. You have that starch and that sugar released in the parsnips as well as what you add. So I'm going to be aiming to make 18 touching 20%. You've heard it, 20%. So what we need to do now is add 1.5 kilos of sugar into your big bucket. And the secret ingredient for this brilliant, fantastic parsnip wine is about 250 grams worth of ginger. I love ginger. And what you find with this parsnip wine is because it's so strong, it can easily carry the fieriness, the heat, the burn of the ginger in your mouth. So what we need to do is simply slice and dice or grate your ginger. If you're not a fan of ginger, use less or don't use any at all. Just make the base parsnip wine. But because there is that high alcohol level within the wine, I find that the ginger carries that flavour forward and tones down the alcohol burn in your mouth and also adds its own, so it sort of disguises it, it masks it, and it creates a perfect winter warmer. So slice and dice, chop or grate your ginger into small chunks and then add that to your big bucket. Very good question. I hear it. I know what you're thinking. Why am I not adding the sugar and the ginger to the saucepan and doing it all in the saucepan? Why am I separating the sugar and the ginger? Simple answer. I'm going to be having parsnip mash for dinner, and I don't want sweet, gingerish parsnip mash. You can add it all to the saucepan in one go if you like. However, if you want parsnip mash later to reuse your parsnip, you don't want it sweet. And I also find if you boil the ginger up and let it simmer for too long, the taste blows your head off. So I'm doing it in 2 separate bits. I'm doing the parsnips boiling and then the sugar and ginger in here. What we need to do now, also to your bucket, to your 5-gallon fermentation bucket, is squeezing the juice and add the halves of 2 lemons into the mix. The acidity really does help balance out the heat and the fire from the ginger. Once your parsnips have been boiling and then simmering for about half an hour and are ready to mash for your dinner if you so fancy, we need to extract that juice and put it into the big bucket on top of your sugar, ginger and lemon juice. So I'm going to pour it through a sieve and a funnel and try not to make too much of a mess. And now I'm going to put a lid on and give it a really good shake to get that sugar all mixed in with that hot, lovely parsnip juice. And now, simply, we need to add some more cold water to that lovely juice from the parsnips and the ginger and the sugar and the lemon juice. Bring up the total volume of the liquid to about 5 litres. That's going to be a full gallon, plus a tiny bit left over for spillages, taste tests and absorbing into the ginger. It will also bring down the temperature ready to add your yeast. Give it another quick shake to get everything working really well together. And now we are going to add the yeast. This wine is strong, it's powerful, it is potent. So we need to be adding a very high alcohol wine yeast. I'm using a high alcohol wine yeast by Cross My Loof, and I know that their yeast can easily get up to 18 to 20%. So go for a high powered alcohol tolerant wine yeast. Sprinkle it in right on top, providing your temperature of the wine is cool enough. And now it is simply a case of setting the wine aside in a warm place to do its thing for the next 5 to 7 days. Stir it daily if you can to get oxygen in amongst the yeast to help it colonize and become really vigorous with its colonization. And I'll be back with you in 5 to 7 days where we will continue this adventure to make the best parsnip wine ever. 5 days have passed and the wonderful parsnip juice has been fermenting away, gaining all the power and oomph and fieriness from those big chunks of ginger that have been bobbing up and down within the lovely juice. What we need to do now is extract the chunks of ginger and the lemon that is within your fermentation bucket and put the juice into your clean, sanitized, sterilized demijohn. So pour in your juice through a sieve or a colander, extract those chunks into your demijohn. So get all that lovely juice into your demijohn, fill it right the way up to the neck. The aroma coming off the parsnip wine is rooty, it's rich, it's fiery, it tingles your nostrils ever so well. What we need to do now is simply insert a cling airlock into the demijohn, and we're going to set this aside to carry on fermenting until the specific gravity, the yeast has eaten all of that lovely sugar and turned it into alcohol. We're going to set it aside in a warm place and just let it be, let it carry on doing its thing. We will need to rack it off 2, maybe 3 times over the course of the next 6 months. Then we want to let it stand, mature. Parsnip wine does take a while to come into its own. 6 months down the line after fermentation, it will be testable. You'll be able to have a sip and judge whether it needs back sweetening. So if it does back sweeten, if you fancy, you probably won't do, but if you do, do so. Then bottle and lay it down for another 6 months. Wait a good year from fermentation end to drinking and you'll be well within that divine sweet spot for wine. And if you like your root veg as much as I do, why don't you check out this potato wine recipe up by here? And I will see you all really soon. You have a good day now.